Hey guys, SAIYAN here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so Legends posted an update, I believe today, that they are going to have new SAIYAN Saga campaign stuff coming to the game. And that got me thinking, because last night on the last episode of the Slot 1 Super Podcast, shout out to the boys, shout out to the podcast, make sure you guys check it out every Friday, we were talking about some things to do with like Dual Dokkan Fests and Golden Week and stuff like that. And the idea of a SAIYAN Saga celebration was discussed. We kind of talked about the category a little bit. Minato was talking about sort of where the category is lacking in a lot of ways, but how it could potentially receive a lot of buffs from a big celebration. So of course, Legends now posting this and having a SAIYAN Saga update did get me thinking about it a little bit more, because of course we know that sometimes Legends and Dokkan release similar stuff within a certain time frame. Now, usually, to be fair, it isn't like at the same time, right? So it's very rare that Dokkan and Legends will release the same thing at the same time. So in one sense, you could almost argue that this Legends getting SAIYAN Saga stuff sometime soon would actually be a note against SAIYAN Saga being for Golden Week. But I thought it'd be interesting to explore the idea, have a quick look at the category and what that kind of celebration or Dual Dokkan Fest would actually look like, because I think it's something that would be quite interesting. It's something that people have been asking for quite some time, because if we click over here and go to the wiki, let's get the slightly better view here. Now, we got, during the 7th anniversary as the Part 2 LRs, we got this Kaioken Goku, who was pretty good on release, and we got this Tech Vegeta. I think in the end, he probably ended up aging slightly better, what with having the guard. And obviously with being an AoE unit, he's still kind of useful for the World Tournament. Not that that's, you know, anything particularly crazy these days when it comes to talking about how valuable units are. But these guys, a lot of people were really disappointed that these two characters that people have wanted to see as a Dual Dokkan Fest for quite some time, were basically relegated to being the Part 2 LRs, because this was back when the anniversary format, of course, had like one banner with 2 new LRs added that were both yellow coin. And so, of course, like, you know, you could summon on the banner wanting to get Goku potentially and get Vegeta, or vice versa, or just get neither. Yellow coin banners always being a little bit awkward to summon on. And of course, you know, the anniversary being the Part 1 units are the big deal. Most people spend most, if not all, of their stones, including all the ones you then get from missions and things like that. And then the Part 2 banner comes out. It's a yellow coin banner, not particularly attractive prospect, so ends up getting skipped by a lot of people. So I know people were very, very disappointed that these guys were only released as Part 2 LRs during the anniversary, because this is one of the most iconic moments from the first series of Dragon Ball. There's these other 2 units, right? The Tech EZA Kaioken Goku doing the Kamehameha and the Physical Vegeta doing the Gallic Gun. The Kamehameha Gallic Gun, like beam clash thing, is probably one of those most iconic moments from the SAIYAN Saga that a lot of people remember. Like people like me, when we first started watching Dragon Ball Z on TV, like after school in the afternoon or whatever, seeing it for the very first time, and this being like the, you know, one of the big build-ups to the end of the SAIYAN Saga, the huge beam struggle, which of course became a feature like throughout the show and in the games. People always liked beam struggles and stuff like that, and this was kind of like the really big major one at the climax of the SAIYAN Saga. So the fact that this hasn't been represented as a proper Dual Dokkan Fest, I think is kind of crazy. So for Golden Week, I feel like this would make an absolutely perfect choice to be the big main like headliner Dual Dokkan Fest, right? Because these guys haven't received new units in a while. In fact, I think the last Kaioken Goku might actually be this guy. So obviously the character having the name Goku brackets Kaioken means he doesn't clash with any of the other units that start out as base Goku, and of course then won't clash with the multitude of Super Saiyan Gokus we have, because of course no Super Saiyan until Namek. So Goku Kaioken, definitely a good choice for being a new big ticket Dokkan Fest exclusive, coming out, you know, ideally being immediately one of the best TURs, and being able to link up with other Gokus would be very, very good. Now, Vegeta, there's a slight issue with the fact that, of course, any Vegeta before a certain point in the story is just going to be base Vegeta. So, like the Saiyan Day Tech Vegeta that we just got, they both start off as being just base Vegeta, which means they would not link together on the first turn. But, you know, it's not necessarily the end of the world, depending on the team builds and what the new unit actually does. Like, that Vegeta's a really, really good slot 1 unit, so I guess we would have to see, right? Like, imagine the Super Saiyan 3 Goku that we just got on Global has a lot of extra buffs if he's in slot 2 or 3. So if they released a new Vegeta that has that, you could potentially float him off on the first turn, get some big buffs for him in slot 3, and then when he comes around on the next turn, by then you're going to be able to transform the Tech Vegeta if you want to. Or, of course, you know, just running different T-Builds, different categories, you could run this guy over the Tech one for teams like Saiyan Saga, and then some of the other things like Terrifying Conquerors, Planetary Destruction. Like, this guy's on a lot more of the villain categories. Of course, he shares all the things like Pure Saiyan, Vegeta Family, Gifted Warriors, that kind of stuff that the other Vegeta is on. Even though that Vegeta is extreme, he's not on as many of the villain categories, because of course he's not like a Terrifying Conqueror or anything at that point. So a new Vegeta would be very good. I guess thinking about it now, that is another thing you could say as a note against this dual Dokkan Fest, was the fact they just released a new Dokkan Fest exclusive Vegeta. But to that, I say, who cares? The Vegeta family team has needed buffs for ages. So even if it means getting 2 back-to-back base Vegetas, but then they are 2 of the best units in the game, I will absolutely take that. So having the Gallic Gun and the Kamehameha from this Beam Clash animated in such a new, you know, current Dokkan standard thing would be super, super good. I'd love to see that. It'd be very cool if they had some kind of like beam nullification as well. Because obviously, like, doing the big Kamehameha or doing the big Gallic Gun would be part of the main super attack animation, I guess. But it would be super cool if they had a beam nullification that was a similar sort of thing. Like, imagine the beam nullification was just an actual, like, full-on cool animated, like, beam struggle with the beam. Not really, like, neither side winning the struggle, but then there's just, like, a big explosion in the middle. Big explosion in the sky, and obviously you take 0 damage because, you know, no one takes damage. It's not a counter. The enemy doesn't take damage. But something like that would be very cool, because it's very hard to do, obviously, the beam clash as an actual super. Because, I mean, you could have, like, you know, one of the characters do their side of the attack, and then the enemy does, like, a big beam attack, and the beam clash is part of the super attack animation. But that will look weird for a whole number of reasons, because firstly, we don't want too many super attack animations that have the enemy sprites in them in the first place. And then secondly, it'll always be funny if you're then doing events where you're fighting, like, Mr. Satan or, you know, any of these random characters where it just doesn't make sense for them to then be doing, like, a massive beam attack as part of the super attack animation. So some sort of nullification would be cool, but I think the big thing is getting the big Kamehameha and the big, like, Gallic Gun as really good animated super attacks, I think would be very, very cool. So, thinking about Saiyan Saga in general, this is a category that's had a lot of, not a lot of representation, but a lot of fumbles along the way, right? Like, Raditz came out and was pretty much immediately, like, the worst released Dokkan Fest. The Gohan and Piccolo are decent, but unfortunately, like, they weren't good against AoEs, so they released in a bit of a weird meta, although you can get some funny shenanigans out of their team. Yamcha's actually aged quite well, which is kind of crazy. Physical, Goku and Piccolo, these guys could quite easily get an easy A. If this was the celebration, right, they could be the big ticket LR easy A. That would be super good. And then, of course, we have, like, units like these guys, like the Nappa and Vegeta and the Chaozu and Tien free-to-play World Tournament card. They've easy A'd recently, so Saiyan Saga buffs would be really good for them. We got the version Z Goku. Imagine they use Golden Week because it's the same time celebration to finally easy A version Z Goku. That would be really, really good as well, especially with him being another just named base Goku. He'd work very well with a new Kaioken Goku. And when it comes to things like banner units, obviously the Saiyan Saga is limited by the characters that are available. But, I mean, we got a good Dokkan Fest Yamcha. Krillin often gets a lot of good side banner units, so it feels a little bit of a shame for... It would be the second Golden Week in a row where even if the unit was good, he only got a side banner unit. But that obviously could be an option. For Vegeta, another new Nappa. It's got Nappa's another character that gets relegated to being a side banner unit all the time. But unfortunately, I guess when it comes to Saiyan Saga, it's a lot more difficult to pick, like, these options for the side banner units, right? Because unless the side banner unit for Vegeta would be like another Raditz of some kind, who else can it be other than Nappa or, like, some Cybermen or something? I guess you could have, like, Nappa and Cybermen, so they have a different name, and the super attack animation could be Nappa, like, throwing out the capsules and having a bunch of Cybermen jump out and blow up the enemy. Be kind of interesting, I guess. But obviously for Goku, we have options like Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, Kid Gohan, Piccolo. I think what would be really cool to see, if we think about, of course, the other big part of the Golden Week celebration would be the Part 2 LR. It's something that people have talked about for quite some time now, is actually getting like an LR Z Fighters. So imagine if like the dual Dokkan Fest headliners are Kaioken Goku and Gallic Gun Vegeta, and then the Part 2 LR is like Gohan, Tien and Chaozu, Krillin, Tien and Chaozu, and Tien. Because I guess Gohan could be on there as well. They would all be on Earthbred Fighters and Piccolo. I was going to say, because if it's just the Tien, Chaozu, and Yamcha, they could be on Earthlings. Same with Krillin. I guess the issue is going to be things like categories and stuff that they're going to share with the headliners. Because even if we just take a look at like a Kaioken Goku, they're going to have Z Fighters, obviously. And then, I mean, you could give them Shocking Speed if Goku's going to have Shocking Speed, which you would assume the new one would. The new one would have Fierce Battle, so they could have Fierce Battle, and they're going to have Legendary Power. They're only going to share 3 links with the Goku, but if you make them a unit like Bulma was last year, not saying, you know, to copy and paste her kit or anything, but Bulma was great despite the fact that you could run her on a bunch of teams where she just wasn't getting a lot of links or anything, but it didn't matter because she was so good, right? The support that she was giving and her own individual performance. So an LRZ Fighters unit, as long as the unit itself is really good and you throw in some of these links, because they're obviously going to have Z Fighters, right? But throw in links like Shocking Speed and a couple of links that other people from that category are potentially going to share, and then, you know, give them some decent support, make the unit itself good, and then, you know, it doesn't really matter so much if they're not sharing a large amount of links, because they're making up for the lack of links by actually giving a lot of support. Because, yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to, like, if we look at some of these characters here, like, who would be the optimal Saiyan Saga team if, let's say, you know, one of their 170 leads for both these new guys was Saiyan Saga, you'd have probably the 2 new units both on the team. The Part 2 LR, whoever they're going to be, the side banner units. It's kind of like Golden Week last year, where all the new units essentially made up the best version of that team. But of course, depending on their secondary leader skills, that opens up a lot of other options, because Vegeta, of course, would be able to have categories like Terrifying Conquerors, Inhuman Deeds, which still doesn't have a new really good leader, so him being a 170 lead for that would be really good. He's on Planetary Destruction, they're on Battle of Fate, which of course is another category that is very interesting with these big final fights from the categories. And then Goku, of course, has the option for some of these other teams like All Out Struggle, Accelerated Battle, Bond of Parent and Child. He's on Power of Wishes as well. So there's a lot of good categories that would get buffed by this dual Dokkan Fest, and depending on what their leader skill is, whilst Saiyan Saga would of course get some nice extra buffs, you wouldn't have to run specifically a full Saiyan Saga team depending on what these guys actually have as their category leads. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Personally, I do think this would be a cool choice for Golden Week. I wouldn't say it was my #1 choice, because as I've said before, when talking about things like DB Saga and stuff, I do like to run these big crazy teams of like Super Saiyans and Power Beyond Super Saiyan and all that kind of stuff. But I enjoyed Golden Week last year, even though it wouldn't have been a top pick for me. I thought the units were really good, the team was really fun, obviously Bulma was crazy good, so as long as they do the cards well, I think any theme can be successful, but it involves putting a lot of thought into the cards, their leader skill, who the banner units will be, what they do, how they fit into the team, the Part 2 LR, all that kind of stuff. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Would you be hyped to see a Saiyan Saga Golden Week? And if not, what would your top choice for Golden Week be? Let me know in the comments. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.